Oh, again, I don't think that many viewers will disagree when I say that men and women are essentially different, and that not all that difference is purely physical. Some of it is inherent mental variation. I'm not, of course, suggesting that women are less intelligent than men. That would be absurd. But their minds definitely do not work in the same way. Let me illustrate what I mean by looking at an enormously important scientific discovery, that of the structure of DNA. This ties in with both what I said about intelligence and also character and type of mind. Mention DNA, and the two names which spring immediately to most people's minds are those of two men, Francis Crick and James Watson. Yet they were not the first people to work out the helical structure of the DNA molecule. That was actually done by a woman called Rosalind Franklin. She was a pioneer in the use of X-ray crystallography and actually saw the structure of DNA, while Watson and Crick were working on the theory. She was every bit as intelligent as them, and yet her name has faded from history, and it is theirs which we remember. Why should this be? It's easy enough to explain, and sheds light on an essential difference between men and women. Franklin was free about sharing her findings with Watson and Crick on the structure of DNA because she thought that researching this subject was a cooperative venture. They, on the other hand, thought that it was a race to see who could publish first and get the credit. In other words, they were in a competition. The result is that they were the first to describe the helix of DNA in an academic journal, and Rosalind Franklin, whose help was invaluable, is today forgotten. Men and women differ in this important way, which is one of the ways in which they differ. When a group of men get together, they will always be competing with each other in various ways. Who earns the most? Who has the best car? Who is most athletic? Who is more successful sexually? In 1,000 different ways, those men will be vying with each other for supremacy. A group of women, on the other hand, will usually be looking for common ground, trying to find out what they share, what interests they have in common. They will be looking for some a social thing. They will be forging a social link, and not one based upon hierarchy, not one based on competition. They will be saying things like, "Oh, I love that too," looking in fact for common ground. The difference is evident in small children as soon as they can walk or talk. What this means is that when you have a role which needs confrontation and aggression, you're better having a man in it. But if you want people who will work together amicably in a common cause, cooperating rather than competing, then you're better off with women. As I say, this has nothing at all to do with intelligence or one of the ways being better or worse. It's just that they are different. Here are one or two professions where confrontation, competition, and aggression are really useful: the army, the police, the prison service. To them we might perhaps add politics and big business. In all these fields of human endeavour, it is now an article of faith that half the people involved in them should be women, particularly at the top in the leadership. And if this is not the case, then there is an injustice which must be rectified. We need look no further than the prison service to see how this mad idea is working out in practice, as anybody could easily have predicted it would. Male prison officers are always on the alert for trouble, and they know that their interests are fundamentally opposed to those of the men whom they control. They are restricting the freedom of men. The trend now is, of course, to employ women as prison officers and governors in male prisons, and these women naturally seek consensus and the finding of common ground with the prisoners. They wish to be their friends, rather than being their jailers, which is what they actually are. Inevitably, this desire for friendship spills over from time to time into sexual desire. Has anybody noticed that almost every week now a female prison officer or even governor is on trial for having a sexual relationship with a male prisoner? Does this really surprise anybody? The same goes for soldiers and police officers. They are basically working in opposition to enemies, and there is a need for aggression and confrontation between police and criminals, our soldiers and those of the enemy. The female genius for collaboration and finding common ground is a hindrance here rather than a help. One thing which women are really brilliant at, and men are hardly any use at all at, is taking care of babies and small children. We have, though, structured our society in such a way that women are all but compelled not to care single-handedly for their children for the first 5 years of their lives, a task for which they are ideally suited by nature. Our society has persuaded women that to be a housewife or stay-at-home mother is a poor second best to having a career outside the home. What has happened as a result of all this distorted ideological perspective is that boys and girls are, from their earliest years, being pushed and cajoled into adopting behaviour and points of view which are quite alien to them. This causes psychological harm and has bred a generation of young people who suffer from all kinds of neuroses. Boys are chided for having uh, behaving in boyish ways, being rough, noisy, aggressive, and occasionally violent, while girls are encouraged to stop nursing dolls and start being more masculine, perhaps having the ambition to be firefighters rather than nurses. Babies, of course, have innate sexual differences in behaviour too. Girl babies tend to enjoy looking at faces more, whereas male babies tend to be more physically active. It takes a lot of concentrated effort to suppress these natural instincts almost from birth. Since most children these days attend state-organised childcare of some kind, rather than staying at home with their mothers, the indoctrination to make them behave against their true natures begins very young. I think that this strong pressure from society against boys and girls following their natural instincts has caused a good deal of mental problems and contributed to the anxiety felt by many young people who have been made to feel guilty for wishing to behave as their natures dictate.